In my last video, I talked about the whole situation with Obsidian pretty much using Kevin Samuels to make money. And I really didn't blame Angry Man for that because he just happened to be on the stream, but more or less it is Obsidian's hypocrisy. And so as I was talking about the history of the Black Manosphere and our fallout and the internal conflicts we were having, I started to see some comments that I really wanted to address. For an example, let's look at this. Talking about the Black Manosphere, I would not accept any list that don't include 1. Solo TV84, 2. Tommy Sotomayor, 3. David Carroll as pioneers. Now let me deal with number 2 and number 3. Tommy Sotomayor. By the time the Black Manosphere was coming about, Tommy Sotomayor was the de facto most talked about Black YouTuber from like 2015 to like 2018, even before then, 2013, 2012. Now, Tommy Sotomayor did bring to light issues that many Black men had with the Black community. He did bring to light things like child support and stuff like that. But those are issues that Black men were going through. Now, was he an influence? Sure, absolutely. Most Black YouTubers or Black men looked at what Tommy Sotomayor was doing and said, wow, if he's doing that for a Black audience, then we can also do it. So again, I'm not taking anything away from him as a person that was respected amongst a lot of Black men and that he could relate and put out ideas. But I would not consider Tommy Sotomayor being a part of the Black Manosphere community. All right, he just wasn't, and he basically didn't collaborate with anybody in the community. So could he have given some ideas and framework? Sure. But Tommy Sotomayor never has and never will be associated with the Black Manosphere directly. He was a YouTuber that acted alone, could not get along with people, and he still is the same way, right? He doesn't really get along with people. He's his own thing. Is he talented? Absolutely. In the Black Manosphere community? Never. Other person, David Carroll. David Carroll was the intellectual juggernaut, and absolutely is probably the most intelligent YouTuber I've seen in the Black YouTube space. Now, David Carroll also didn't like working with Black men. In fact, he mocked Black men, calling them dumb all the time. And again, a lot of the framework and ideology that David Carroll talked about, you could see that particular situation in the Black Manosphere. You can look at some of the framework that, he might have put out there, and he was so much wider than just Black men talking points. I mean, he attacked the Black community as a whole, pro-Blacks, white supremacy and racism. So his ideologies were more widespread than just talking about Black issues. He had more of an intellectual bag than all of us. I mean, he was just that good. But was he in the Black Manosphere? No. Did he lay some framework down that we could appreciate? Absolutely. Now then there's the case of Mr. Research. Somebody put no mention of Mr. Research. He was a part of the crew that created the Black Manosphere. By the way, BGS had nothing to do with the creation of the Black Manosphere at all, so don't believe anything that old narcissistic dude preaches. Now, BGS and the Ibmore guys were around and they did collaborate. And again, BGS was, somewhat of a player in the Black Manosphere in his own right. So I will say that he was definitely around, not necessarily known as like, me, Obsidian, or Angry Man, but he played his part. A lot of people love BGS and his hangouts and stuff, so he had also a lot of framework there, so I don't want to take anything from him. BGS Ibmore definitely was influential in the space, no question about that. Mr. Research, on the other hand, is a person that doesn't get enough credit because his framework that he was talking about was even better than ours, now that I think about it. Don't get me wrong, I love what Obsidian has done for the Black Manosphere community and the whole idea of we must fund these things for ourselves. We must be our own voice. We must develop our own systems, our own framework as Black men. And that's what he brought to the table that nobody else brought to the table. Obsidian was the one, in my honest opinion, outside of anybody else. You could say Tommy, you could say as far as the community of Black men that were disgruntled in our way forward, nobody did that better than Obsidian Network. He is the GOAT when it comes to that. Mr. Researcher's position was, you guys are over here complaining about these women. You guys need to seek power. You need more ownership. You need to be in all sectors of the private economy. You guys need to control, the resources in your community, and then that will help you have a better relationship with women. There's only one other guy that I've heard talk like this, and that was Brother George Macon, but he wasn't even in the Black Manosphere. So Mr. Research, in my honest opinion, his framework was light years ahead of ours at the time. So, and obviously, you know, there was no way that he could be a part of the Black Manosphere when I believe that most of the framework dealt with kind of being upset about where Black men's position was at the time. You started to see with, you know, some of the conferences the guys were having going towards Mr. Research's ideology, but his framework and ideology about Black men having power and stuff like that was not there initially. So yes, he did try to put us there, but ultimately his ideas were kind of rejected and replaced for, you know, a lot of us just being disgruntled with where we were at the time. And that's kind of really what built the community, was kind of Black men coming together that had an issue in such things, right? So that's kind of where it went with him. Now, the last guy I want to talk about, who I feel doesn't get the credit, which is Solo TV84. He came and commented on that video. 95% of the Black Manosphere wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Oshay and myself. Yeah, I said it. Now, Solo TV84 is a person that I love. I haven't talked to him in like a few years, but I don't think he'll mind me sharing this. We've gotten into it before, not because of me. Me and him have never argued. Before the fact that Solo TV84 never got the credit that he deserved. And Solo TV84 played a role in the Black Manosphere that was similar to mine's behind the scenes. Number one, Solo TV84 was more concerned with like the dating and pickup kind of style of the Black Manosphere. So you would see him more or less in, you know, the dating department, kind of pickup game, things like that, approaching women. That's kind of what he did. And that did play a part of the Black Manosphere too. And that's what makes like the Black Manosphere different than somebody like Tommy Sotomayor or David Carroll. The Black Manosphere dealt with, you know, framework and ideology that even academics had come into, like T.S. Johnson. But it was also a place where somebody like Alan Roger Curry could fit into, rest in peace, with, you know, as a dating coach. And Solo TV84 was a person that kind of fostered that level of community. And that's how we get guys like Alpha Male Strategies. If you guys remember, Alpha Male Strategies came up through Solo TV84. He wasn't necessarily able to get an interview with me at the time, but he would comment under my videos and all of that. And so the interview with Solo TV84 is what pushed him over the top. And then he called in, you know, to that legendary Brother Pill podcast with Steve Dean. And then there it was, right? So we got that. And then also from Solo TV84, we get the introduction to mediocre tutorials and reviews. Now, I met MTR when he had like less than 4,000 or 5,000 subscribers, and I met him through, you guessed it, Solo TV84, okay? Now, that's another person that you can say was introduced through his camp, all right? And then once Obsidian had told me about, you know, Donovan Sharp, I went and I contacted Donovan Sharp, and Donovan Sharp joined, you know, the Black Manosphere and started writing for the Manosphere.com. And then what happened with Donovan is that Donovan started going to like the 21 convention and creating his own shows. And that's where Solo TV84 was able to meet Myron, okay? But what else did Solo TV84 do?
Then I saw Gold Digger Pranks. So I'm like, let's try this shit. I hit WorldStar, I hit Facebook. Now I'm like, everywhere, like, yo, Fresh, come over here, bro. Let's come to this party. I'm like, oh, I'm the man now.
Yeah.
Then I meet Solo TV84. So we do an interview, we chop it up. And then he's like, yo, I know a guy in Miami, Myron Gaines, fitness YouTuber.
Yeah.
I'm like, fitness? Look at me.
Yeah.
Fitness? You think I want to do fitness? And he's like, bro, no, you should get your collab. You think a lot, you got the mindset of like real estate and girls, like, chop it up. I'm like, I don't know, bro. Myron DMs me. We chop it up for like an hour on the call. So then he's like, bro, go meet with him. Let's get dinner. Let's just see what it's about. So we go, me, Casey, and Myron. It's a top 42 Midtown. I'll never forget this. And we're just talking about like life, girls, dating.
Yeah.
I think it was neither me or Casey was like, why don't you do your own podcast? I'm like,
Solo TV84 is the person that introduced Fresh and Fit. Now, I know I don't like Fresh and Fit at all, but through the Black Manosphere lineage, you can see that because of the Black Manosphere, Donovan was able to get on to 21 convention. He met Myron. Myron was able to meet, you know, Fresh, and the rest is history. So the Fresh and Fit podcast, Kevin Samuels, guys like the lead attorney get their first start in the Black Manosphere community, and then they go other places. And I want to just say this about Solo TV84. You know, I love the guy a whole lot. You know, he never wanted anything from these guys. but he never really got his respect. And again, I'm not taking anything away from Tommy. I'm not taking anything away from David Carroll, but none of those guys were in the community. They didn't want really nothing to do with it. And so you, in order for to be in the Black Manosphere, you just couldn't have ideologies. You'd have to have some skin in the game. And the reason why I say this is because a lot of the ideologies some of these guys are talking about, these are things that people talked about in barbershops and things like that. But the reality of it is that Solo TV84 was the ultimate connector. Behind the scenes, he worked with guys. I met LAR Movement finally through Solo TV84. I used to watch LAR, but I met him through, Solo TV84. Me and LAR are still friends to this day. He came out to Uganda to see me. We had a really good time. And these are the guys that just didn't get a whole bunch of credit for, basically just wanting to see black men win. And it's unfortunate that things ended the way that they did. I feel, bad for a lot of the brothers out there who really believed in us. The reality is that as we got, older and you get wiser, we should have been talking more or less about black male power in Mr. Research's ideology would have carried us a lot more than just being frustrated with what's going on with black women and being frustrated with our positions. But we just couldn't see it at that time. A lot of the brothers just couldn't see it. And then for content creators, that frustrating content is what was also making a lot of money too. Don't get me wrong, like when I was making the content that I was making and still today, like I'm still frustrated. I still go through those same things. But then life started changing for certain brothers, right? Especially certain content creators. George Megan called me one day. I was, in Poland somewhere, and he was like, yo, man, like, you're talking about the issues that black men are having with black women, but do you still face those same issues? And at the time, I do, and I still do now. But, the reality is that he helped me realize that I'm not really facing the same exact issues all the time. And now I admit that, things had gotten a little bit different for me and got better for me. And so, but I've been going through this 35 years of my life. I just was still attaching myself to the issues. And then obviously guys like that content, and then so when you get to the point where you start to realize that, if you just control all what you do, then, women are gonna, come and do what you need to do anyway. Then when you get to the point that you realize that the best framework is just ownership, it's just something that, a lot of guys just didn't want to hear and still don't want to hear it. And I started realizing it most likely after when he told me that. And that's kind of when I started making a little bit of a change. But then I noticed that certain other guys, maybe just wanted to just keep, the bag coming in and, keeping brothers mad as sisters. But ultimately, this is the real truth about the Black Manosphere. Hopefully some iteration of this can come back in the future. I mean, we had a really supportive community. We had, a lot of black men that really showed up for us each and every day. We had a lot of brothers that got on in the tech space, a lot of brothers that got on in certain situations that got into different careers because of the Hall of Game and other things going on. Dudes came to Africa, it was a whole bunch of successes that happened. But ultimately, this is the real truth. Solo TV84 deserves more credit. Mr. Research was right. Tommy and David Carroll, again, these were guys who I feel like were kind of just too big for the Black Manosphere at that particular time. And their framework was definitely influential. And we all take things from guys who are influential. Tommy was definitely influential. David Carroll was definitely influential. But I can't put anybody in the community that wasn't working in the community. I can say that BGS was in the community. Mr. Researcher worked with us here and there. I can say that Black Ram was in the community, right? I can say that Minister Jap was in the community. I can say that the Angry Man was in the community. Obsidian was in the community. I can say that, but I can't say that you got to give credit to guys in the Black Manosphere who were not in the actual framework and what it developed into. The Black Manosphere guys came through with the travel spaces, the passport bros come out the Black Manosphere. You have like the geopolitical guys come out the Black Manosphere. You have the whole dating coaches, the Steve the Deans that came in, the Donovans that came in, the Alan Roger Currys that came in. These are guys that built different lanes and framework for different kinds of men to come through, and you just did not see that with David Carroll or Tommy Sotomayor, so that you can't take credit for something that they didn't do. But they have framework, especially when it came to child support, men's rights, talking about issues before some of us talked about them. You got to give them credit, but they were not in the community. They just were not. So it's hard for me to sit there as an insider, as a guy who was there the whole time, and say that these guys were there. The one thing I would say is that Mr. Research's framework was the best. Combining it with Obsidian, it was mind-boggling. But then again, that probably doesn't get a whole lot of views on YouTube. That doesn't get a whole lot of guys wanting to join up with you. And again, the Black Manosphere had a big time entertainment piece to it. So that's another thing also. But guys, what do you think? It's your boy Oshay Duke Jackson back at it again with another episode of Celebrity Junk. I appreciate you for all that you do. Subscribe, hit the bell. We're out.